If you don't know what you're doing, okay, don't fret. Because there are things out there that allow you to find stuff for your cosplay. The ears that I print for camming, I didn't design. I found on a place called Thingiverse, and I scaled them down so that they were more human size as opposed to furry size. My Manufactory, Yagi, Imagine, these are all search engines or actual repository that people like me or other people have put their designs up on. And you would be amazed what you can find on there for your cosplay. There's steampunk stuff, there's Star Wars stuff, there's Star Trek stuff, there's Space 1999. I'm a big Space 1999 fan. All of these things, anybody has a fandom or anything like that, there's going to be more than likely somebody's made a model of it. Okay? So, real quick note, you're going to see things called object files, you're going to find things called STL files. All these things are the actual design there's just the file that contains the design. Okay? These are just different formats for the different 3D type of things. Okay? Not everything is suited for 3D printing. Okay? You have to look at it, you have to think about it. Some of this stuff just doesn't work when it's 3D printed. Okay? I've seen some beautiful models that are in video games, and you can rip stuff out of video games that they don't work when you 3D print them. Okay? They look like crap, or they fall apart, or they don't work. So know what sort of thing, look at it. You'll start to notice, and you'll start to see what works and what doesn't. Okay? So, got to the point where I'm doing examples. Okay? So, my friend Dave Lee suckered me in and got me in a Warhammer 40K. And me being the overachiever that I am, instead of doing a typical Warhammer 40K, I don't know who has played Warhammer 40K or anything like that, this is a Terminator. Okay? This is the hardest freaking model in the world to build. Okay? Because of the different complex shapes, etc. Typically, a normal Warhammer 40K person does the pig nose sort of helmet. I decided to be an idiot and do this. Okay? So, I was not able to print this out as one complete piece. And when you do some of your cosplay stuff, you're not going to be able to print it out as one complete piece. So you're going to have to use tools out there that's going to cut it into pieces. This is why I like ABS. ABS is nice and durable, and I'm going to pass this around. But I had to fuse this together using acetone and tabs. If you look inside, there's little tabs that I use to put it together. Okay? So, I'm going to pass this around. Okay?
Who has the other ear?
There's one
right here. Okay?
What's the powder in here?
Sawdust.
Oh. Sawdust.
Yeah, I used it to do some of the distressing on it when I was painting it. Okay, steampunk stuff. This was just a model that's off of Thingiverse, simple steampunk goggles. Okay. Now people are going to ask, how much does this cost for me to do this? Okay. This is maybe 10 cents, 15 cents worth of filament. Okay. My filament rolls come in 2 kilogram rolls. Or a kilogram. You can get it 5 kilogram and 5 kilogram and 1 kilogram rolls. The rolls are about the size of this. And I'm getting the flash thing, so I need to let you talk about laser printing a little bit too. So you're going to do.
Can I switch to your?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, you're going to do finishing work on it. So it's going to print out. You're going to have little things. So you're going to sand it. You were asking about how to do it. I go to a auto body shop, and I get spot putty from Bondo. It comes in a little tube that looks like a toothpaste tube, and you just put it on like you would when you're doing body work. You smooth it out, you sand it, smooth it out, sand it. Okay. When you get something out of a printer, it's going to look kind of like that. What I do is I go out and buy a $7 can of acetone, and I soak this in acetone. There's different ways of doing it. I typically don't like the vapor stuff because it's dangerous because you can blow it up. So what I do is I take a natural hair bristle brush, an old coffee cup, and I just paint it on. If it's small enough that it'll fit in my container, like the greebles that I have for my Sandman, I just dip it in it, take it out, put it and let it dry. For PLA, you can buy a kit from Smooth On called XCC 3D. This is a two-part epoxy that you just paint over it, and it makes the PLA a little stronger.
You can also use ethyl acetate with the PLA.
Right, but ethyl acetate's kind of nasty.
It's expensive, like $20 a gallon.
Chris,
Okay.
what was the acetone doing?
Acetone will take plastic and heat it. It'll take ABS plastic and it literally kind of melts it,
Makes the surface flow out.
and it'll flow out.
Smoothing it.
Yeah, so
Can I give an example real quick that'll be easily understood?
sure.
Acrylic nails. When a woman goes and has her nails done, to get that smooth finish, they use primarily acetone to brush it on, and it smooths the surface. It removes all the rough edges. So that's essentially what acetone is doing.
Okay. The helmet I did, a kid's helmet for Steampunk. It's just a Prussian helmet. Printed it out, smoothed it with acetone, smoothed it with the spot putty. It's now done.
Use a combination of
Yeah, you're not going to get it perfectly smooth. Okay, failed prints are going to happen. You're going to have bed adhesion problems. You're going to have model problems. Okay, where it looks good in your modeling program, but it still doesn't print.
short raft is.
Okay, a raft is if you've got a section of your print that extends over a period of time. Okay, that's a support. A raft is what goes around your print. If you're going to have a tall print, it's not so stable, you're going to want to put a raft around it. And it just gives it that extra little space.
It's an option in the software.
Right, yeah, it's just a checkbox. On my printer bed, I use Kapton tape, which is lets heat flow through the bed for bed adhesion and to keep my bed clean.
Is it on glass?
Huh? Yeah, I just put it on the glass. Okay, and I use since I print in ABS, I use ABS slurry, which looks like white glue, but some people use Elmer's stick glue. I use ABS slurries, which is just ABS, or scrap ABS. You throw it in a can or in a jar with acetone, and it makes this stuff that looks like Elmer's glue, and you just paint it on. Things that I've made, we can show that later. If you want to get into some of the more advanced stuff, you can do 3D scanning. You can find these for 19 bucks in a pawn shop. I think is what I paid for this. And this is all you have to use. The software is out there. There's an adapter that's 20 bucks, and we're talking maybe 50 bucks worth of stuff. And you can do scanner. This is a Xbox 360. Yeah, Xbox 360.
3D controller.
Yeah. This is the thing that you use to dance in front of. Okay. This is just a scanner. Okay. You can make it. You can have a handle. There's things on Thingiverse that it's a handle. There's a company in our makerspace in Knoxville that has a full setup where you stand on a rotating. Well, you were there.
I was there, but I didn't get one.
Go. Okay. If you have any questions, come up and ask me afterwards. As you see, I kind of like doing this stuff. I'm sorry, Brad.
That's all right. Okay. Here's my contribution. If you're a friend of this for me, it's an iPhone amplifier, passive amplifier. It works really well actually, so you can stick your iPhone in there. Just that shape is a nice thing to 3D print because that's hard to make otherwise. So I'm going to talk a little bit about laser cutting and engravers. And so again, these are something that generally you have to go to a tech shop or a maker shop for. There was a new Kickstarter that was done here this past year for a product called Glowforge, which is a low-cost laser cutter. They were aiming in the $2,000 to $2,500 mark, so it makes it much more affordable. They kind of streamlined a lot of stuff. They put all the software in the cloud and really simplified the options for you so that they could get the cost down. It remains to be seen how effective that is and whether it's going to be a good product or not. But a lot of people are very excited about a $2,000 laser cutter. So if you don't have access to that, then you start moving up in price. The one that I've used the most, that I like using the most, is the Epilogue. Epilogues are an American company. They run about 16 grand. Again, they're not really for home use, but the software is really easy to use. The hardware is very good. Somewhere in between is a range of Chinese lasers, and there's not a specific brand name. There's basically a set of hardware that is kind of produced by a bunch of different Chinese manufacturers, and then different distributors in the United States kind of slap their own services and details around it, and then make it available. It's much more affordable for a smaller maker space, potentially even for home use, but the quality of the software is not particularly good. They're very challenging to use from a software perspective. So if you can get access to it, an Epilogue or one of the higher end lasers, it's better. So I just wanted to show a little bit about what well, first let me talk about what you can do with the laser cutter. So laser cutters basically are a large flat bed, as you can see here in this video what the bed looks like. And it's a metal bed, or usually a screen bed that you lay a piece of wood on, or whatever you want to be cut or engraved, and then a laser will move across it, just like a 3D printer moves across the bed, and a 3D printer, the laser cutter, moves the laser across and either cuts or engraves as it goes. And so the machines essentially operate in one of two modes. They either operate in a cutting mode or an engraving mode, and sometimes you can do both. And it'll usually do the engraving first, and then you can go and do the cutout around the outside and do it in one pass. So I'll just show you some examples here. So this is a little Gothic bridge that I made for miniature scaling, and so you can see this is all vector cut shapes here, and then the base of it is all engraved with kind of a Celtic symbols. And so it works. You can use laser cutters and engravers on a variety of materials. I primarily use it on wood and acrylic. You can also use it on leather. If you go over to see Thomas Williford's booth over in the dealer's room, he has made a career off of using a laser cutter on leather, and so it works very well for that. He's got a very high-end laser, but you can still do work on leather with it. You can engrave food with it, chocolate with it, pumpkins, glass, so people use it for etching on glass. You can get adapters for the laser cutters that have a rotating thing, so you can put a glass in there and it'll rotate and the laser will pass over the glass and engrave the glass. So there's lots of different materials you can use. There's also a bunch of materials that you cannot use. You cannot cut metal with a laser cutter. So anything like brass or whatever is right out. You can't cut a lot of plastics that are not laser safe. A lot of them have PVC, which basically gives off chlorine gas whenever the laser heats it up. So if you, all of the lasers have data sheets that tell you what's safe and not safe to put into the laser cutter. Don't use the non-safe stuff because you will likely die from fumes.
Don't use polystyrene.
Yeah, don't use polystyrene. There's companies that make acrylic specifically for laser cutting. You can get them in all variety of colors and styles. This is an acrylic safe, or a laser safe acrylic from, it's Romark, and it looks like brass. It's got a brass finish. So a lot of times if you buy like an award or something, or a trophy, you get a participation trophy, and it's got a little plastic thing on it with your name etched in it. That's probably laser engraved acrylic. If it's not an actual brass thing that was.
So is it easier to control the power so that you for engrave versus cut?
Yeah. So I'm just going to show you. There's for the epilogues. I don't know if you can see this or not, but for the epilogues, you pick whether you're going to do raster, which is you've got like an engraving you want to do, so that's like a JPEG or a graphic, an image, basically, that you want to engrave. So that's what you create, is an image that you want to engrave. And so when you pick engrave, you've got a speed and a power setting, and the data sheets tell you what power that you want to print at, and or for each material type. And then if you click vector, then you set the speed, power, and the frequency, the pulse frequency. And again, it's just looking at the data sheet, saying, okay, for 1/8 of an inch thick wood, I put in these values, and then you try it, see it doesn't work, and you tinker with the numbers until it does work. Let me take a step back up. So, how do we get this stuff into to the laser cutter? So you use a drawing program such as CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator or any CAD program you want. So here's that bridge that I just showed you. You draw it in CorelDRAW, for example, and when you set the lines, different lasers work different ways. With Epilogue, when you set the line, there's a line thickness that you set for the number of points. And if you set it to be hairline, the Epilogue knows that that means to cut. So any line that you draw in your picture that you have set to hairline, it will cut. The laser will cut through the wood. If you set it to anything else, 0.5 and above on the thickness, then it'll engrave it. And if you have an image, it will by default engrave it. So you can mix both in the same picture. You can import a picture. You can use the outline function to draw an outline around the outside, and then set that outline to hairline. And then what will happen is the laser will go through and it'll engrave every pixel in your picture. It uses basically a grayscale. It converts the image to a grayscale, and then the closer to black it is in the image, the more it will burn the wood or whatever to make a deeper impression. And so if you just imported a photo into CorelDRAW and print it out to a laser, you basically get sort of a 3D toned picture engraved on the system. So that's why you can see here there's like some kind of four-leaf clover kind of shapes that are darker. So those were darker in the image than they were on the than the other ones, which were a different color. So basically you draw it in here, and then you just print, and the laser cutter shows up as a printer in your list of printers, and then it takes you over to that screen that I just showed you, where you pick your power settings, and then you hit print, and ideally, if you put your material in, you have to line up the printer head and the laser head, and then it will engrave and cut, and you open it up and find out that you screwed something up and you have to do it again. So there's a lot of trial and error and repeat kind of process with lasers. Unlike working wood with your hands, lasers are very precise tools. They will do exactly what you tell them to do, which is usually not what you intended to tell them to do. So there's a lot of experimentation. If you have expensive materials, you want to try it on a cheap material first before you go ruining your your $60 piece of acrylic. You want to try it on a cheap piece of plywood first and make sure it works. There are some other tools that you can use that are really handy. This is a little tool called Box Maker, and you basically tell it how big of a box you want to make, and it will print out an image that you can import into your drawing program, which will create a box that you can snap together that needs no glue. It's held together completely with friction, but the laser is so accurate that you can just snap these together, okay? And it'll hold together. Another really useful tool is GearMaker. So GearMaker lets you basically define what kind of gears you want to make. This is if you need actual working gears. And you can say how many teeth you want, the size you want. You can do different shapes of gears, pin gears, envelope gears, whatever you want. It'll animate it, and it'll export it, and then you can laser cut your own gears. And these are out of wood. This one's out of the acrylic that I mentioned. Yes?
Quick question. Can you print those without, can you print those on, say, paper?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
That's one word?
Yeah, this is a great tool even if you're not using a laser cutter.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Are they both free?
I think
Gear Maker is like $1 or
Yeah.
$10 or something.
Not bad.
You know, really small amount of money. And Box Maker is free, but it's a little bit hard to find. So these were just done things that people did in their spare time because they needed them, but they're a heck of a lot easier than trying to create gears on your own from scratch. So to show you some other projects I did here, this was my iPhone case, which unfortunately I don't have right now because I broke it. But that was an engraved, I took a wood iPhone case. I have another one here that I'm going to be engraving eventually. Wood iPhone case, and just created that design and stuck the iPhone case in there and etched. This is another example of try it first before you ruin, you know, the wood iPhone case that you're going to do it on. This was a large automaton I built called the Etherologist. I designed it completely in Corel Draw first with this concept picture down to, you know, the box. That's the top of the box, for example. And then started getting into the gears and pulleys and things that are inside it. So one interesting thing I found with that was when you mix different styles of making. So I designed everything in Corel Draw, printed out, and then I had other things that I had to make by hand, which is a much less precise way of making things. When you try to mix those two worlds, it's kind of tough because if you're making it by hand, you can just say, oh, I'll just sand that a little bit, or I'll shorten it over here instead. With laser, it means no, you got to throw it out and you got to reprint it. So it's a little bit of a challenge to mix the two worlds. But anyway, that's my 10-minute overview of laser cutting and engraving. Any questions?
How well does it work, or is it an upgrade to etch on an already 3D design? Like if I wanted to engrave a Nerf gun or something?
It doesn't work well.
Okay.
You generally have to do it on something flat or completely round that you can put on the attachment that will rotate it. It has a little bit of depth adjustment, and in fact the Glowforge, I think, claims that it can, you know,
the Glowforge
laser
has a thing where you can go over a
Curve.
curve.
Yeah, so, but that's the only one that I'm aware of that has that kind of capability.
And that one's fairly new. That one is only.
It's
Yeah,
still in
it's
beta.
not-
It was supposed to be out in December, and
Yeah.
I know a couple people that ordered it, and they still haven't gotten it because
They're still in testing phases.
I wouldn't etch on a Nerf gun anyway. I guess
Because it's
kind
not
of
flat.
yeah.
As an example.
I had some gauge faces, these little mini gauges here. Friend volunteered to print them for me, and I said, well, you know, what can you use? And he said, I don't know, send me a sheet of anything clear. So I had some polystyrene, sent that up to him. It caught on fire in the machine.
We're not doing that again.
So the good thing about lasers is once you do get your design done, it's easy to reproduce. It's just a whole bag of gears that takes about 10 minutes to print out.
Same with 3D printing. Once you have the design done, you know, you can make it over and over and over and over and over. If you have any further questions, feel free to grab myself or Brett. We'll walk down. We're very approachable. I don't think we're snobs. So if you see us walking down, if we're going to someplace like another panel, we'll let you know. But please come up and ask us your questions and stuff like that. I really think you're going to start thinking now that we've given you these tools and these ideas. What can I do with these things? So please feel free to ask us questions.
I post stuff on my Facebook page, so I'll do a plug, Brett King's Steam. If you want to check it out, you know, I'll post pictures of things that I'm doing with these various technologies and give tips and things. But yeah, come up and ask any questions if you'd like. But we're transitioning, I think, to you next, or MC.
Yes. There's also the 3D printer on Facebook for printing.
Thanks, guys.
I know it's quick. Wait a minute, I woke up at 5 a.m. and looking for
I think the convention 3.0 Some of these are my designs, some of these are downloaded. I had an original, this was an original, you can get to it. This was one I designed in a special way where I play and everything.
Hello?
Yeah, I made some, also made some, yeah, the real fine stuff, you never be able to make.
Do I have a pen now? What's 12?
This is 12.
Then I've got an hour before 2, yeah. Go to Naomi and tell her Chris needs a table for 6, and she'll get it. You know Naomi, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so this is the original, this is the 3D design. Yes, sir. Yes, buttons do work. Here's where grab me, find me, and I'll give you a card.
Hardware is pretty good. Actually, I got to do a lot more manual maintenance of it. Hardware is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Software is.
You're alive.
Well, it's actually,
you have to print it. It doesn't work like the epilogue. You have to export it out of your computer, import it into the
Used to be more maneuver, and I kept out.
How you please, if you got any questions,
Trying to get over here without disrupting anything.
I actually, it took me longer to print it out than actually
In the process of printer shots, that's where
You're welcome. I have a DaVinci 1.08, and as you know, DaVinci 1.08 is a proprietary cartridge. Okay. You can go out there and there's a software package. Well, there's a couple of software packages. One, but the one I used was Orpedia, and I reflashed the DaVinci. There's tons and tons. Give me a second, I'll give you a card. Do you have what printer do you have? Right now, I'm going to take them off. You should be able to use stuff. Nobody that's 5 years old. Oh, software. Okay. You can simplify 3D. Hi. It is. I guess the hardware.
Going to paint it so it's more code and I brought this thing for visual aid. That is a modified version of the robot battle robot.
Now I built myself my own CNC.
I brought it for a visual aid if you want it.
Using my 3D printer to make parts to make it CNC. So I love talking about it.
Stay out of the way.
Huh? Right. Cool.
no, I think this takes about 2 minutes to assemble.
I'm sorry I overtalked.
No, that's okay. We probably shouldn't.
This should have
one
been
topic.
Yeah.
We're all teenagers.
Is it really cool or is this it?
That's it here. Are you doing teapot racing or?
Yes.
You didn't know about this trick?
No, that's pretty cool.
It's like 1920.
I've got to get my printer stable first. I'm totally lost confidence in the way they mount the glass. My problem with the glass keep was sliding around.
Talk to me later today and we can work that because I've seen solutions before.
Okay. You've heard of that problem before?
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, that's a